Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Thursday. We are edging closer towards the weekend. I hope all is well and you are having a good week. Got to start off with one of my usual apologies, which I tend to do all the time on these videos, and they always seem to make you laugh in the comments, but sounds like one of my neighbours or someone around here is basically chopping down their entire garden with a chainsaw, and it's annoying for me to listen to, and I have no idea if it's going to come through on this or not. If it does, and it sounds like there's a lot of angry wasps or something flying around, then apologies for that. But it's either record now or not record at all, because I've got a lot of stuff on today. So, yeah, I thought I'd go with it anyway, and hopefully it's not too annoying for you. Wanted to spend quite a bit of today's video looking at Arsenal and the midfield ahead of the summer. There's a lot of talk about that at the moment. It's obviously going to be highlighted by the fact Arsenal are playing Brighton on Sunday, so we're going to see Moises Caicedo at the Emirates for the first time since pretty dramatic January, I would say, when it comes to him and his future. Obviously, very much wanted to join Arsenal. Arsenal very much wanted him to sign. It didn't happen. Brighton stood firm despite a couple of bids from Arsenal, one as high as 70 million. And despite Moises Caicedo taking to social media and basically begging for Brighton to let him go, they stood firm. He's since signed a new contract since then, but that doesn't mean he's not going to move this summer, and Arsenal are still obviously interested in Moises Caicedo. So it's going to be interesting to see, A, how he performs on Sunday, B, what sort of reception he gets. I think when you look at the reception that Mudryk got when he came from Chelsea, came to play for Chelsea last week, it's definitely going to be very different to that, I imagine, because obviously what happened with Mudryk is he ended up going to Chelsea. That hasn't happened with Caicedo. He stayed at Brighton, and it wasn't like he's Mudryk didn't turn Arsenal down. I thought the reception he got was unfair, to be honest, but it's a very different situation with Caicedo, so I can't imagine he's going to end up being the target for any boo boys or anything like that on Sunday. And yeah, it's just an interesting one looking ahead to the summer. The midfield is obviously going to be a really key part of Arsenal's plans for the summer. We know all about Declan Rice, Moises Caicedo. You know, I've mentioned that Arsenal are interested in, or certainly looking at Mason Mount's situation at Chelsea as well, ahead of the summer. And the midfield's going to be really key. I think when you look at this Arsenal team right now, and you think what they need to do to take it to the next level, which is what Mikel Arteta wants to do, it's what Edu wants to do. You know, that's the plan for this summer. They're going to need to, ahead of the Champions League return next year, is how do you build on this season? This season's been fantastic. It's not over yet, obviously, but it's been fantastic. There's been so much progress made. So what's the next step? How do you build on that? And I think when you look at the areas that Arsenal need to improve on, there's probably a few in terms of the squad that are pretty obvious. And I think the midfield is definitely an area. It's been a really good midfield this season, no doubt about it. Partey for long periods has been exceptional. Granit Xhaka has been exceptional. But when you look at both of their ages, they're not the youngest when it comes to Arsenal's team. I think we've seen, I don't know how to describe this. We've certainly seen recently a drop-off in form from Thomas Partey. We know all about his injury issues as well. So, you know, I think long-term, when you're looking at improving the squad and moving things on, I think midfield is obviously key. And that's what Arsenal are looking at. We know that. That's why they tried to spend £70 million on Caicedo in January, and it's why Declan Rice is a massive target going into this summer. Could they sign both? Look, that remains to be seen. It's really impossible for me to predict that. The plan back then in January was to sign Caicedo and then go for Declan Rice in the summer. So you look at that and you think, well, why can't you do that this summer? It's not quite as easy as that, because it all depends on the finances, doesn't it? You see West Ham at the moment apparently wanting 120 million for Declan Rice. Brighton see that with Caicedo. They're going to want a huge amount of money for him. You know, they turned down 70 million in January. He's since signed a new contract. There's no release clause in that contract. So, you know, they're going to be looking at Enzo Fernandez going to Chelsea for 100 million. They're going to look at Declan Rice potentially leaving West Ham for over 100 million. They're not going to just let Caicedo go for cheap. So, you know, signing both financially is incredibly difficult, I imagine. I'm not going to say it won't happen, because I have no idea. You know, who knows what sort of money Arsenal are going to end up spending this summer. They've got their Champions League money to play with, which is going to be a big boost. We've seen that the Cronkies have backed Arsenal, or, you know, found money to give to Arsenal. Even when they haven't been in the Champions League, they've spent big. Now they are back in the Champions League, so you'd expect that's going to be, you know, there's going to be a really significant spend this summer. And I think Arsenal will make player sales this summer for the first time in a while, quite big player sales, you know, potentially Kieran Tierney, potentially Emil Smith-Rowe even. You sort of look at his situation and wonder, is this potentially a summer that Smith-Rowe goes? We'll have to wait and see. You know, Kieran Tierney, as I said, Fowler and Balogun. these players could bring in some pretty substantial funds. Granit Xhaka potentially again is someone who may well end up going. If Granit Xhaka goes, then you definitely need two big name central midfielders to come in the summer. So I think it's going to be really, I think what they do with that midfield is going to be absolutely crucial in terms of taking Arsenal to the next level and making sure they can compete at the top level, because that spine of the team I think is really, really important. I think as long as Saliba signs his new contract, your two centre-backs there are sorted. I think, although he has his defensive deficiencies, I don't see Arsenal changing Zinchenko for next season. As long as he's fit, he plays. I think Ben White stays as well. There might be some backup coming for Ben White, but I think first choice, he's very much remains Arsenal's right back. Aaron Ramsdale very much remains Arsenal's number one keeper up front. Potentially a new striker to provide competition for Jesus, I don't know, but you kind of look at the wingers, they're sorted, other than backup needed for Bukayo Saka. But I think in that midfield, given the age of Xhaka and Partey, given the injuries issues we've seen with Partey, Jorginho's there, but he's not any younger. That's the area where I think Arsenal are going to really target to take themselves to the next level, and it's going to be really interesting to see exactly what they do. Mason Mount as well, as I said, I've spoken about him before, which takes me back to potentially Emile Smith-Rowe being a sale this summer. It's not something I really want to see, but the fact that they're even talking and exploring Mason Mount's situation doesn't bode well potentially for Smith-Rowe. He's a player in a similar sort of position, only a little bit older, England international. What does that say about Smith-Rowe's future at Arsenal? We'll have to wait and see. But I think that midfield area is going to be absolutely crucial. You look at where else Arsenal are going to do. I think Reece Nelson, we'll see what happens with his contract. At the moment, he hasn't signed one. He hasn't accepted one. Will he leave? I think he probably will. That's just a hunch, though. That's not based on anything that I've heard. But you just kind of look at it and think, for Reece, what's best for him now in his career at his age? Is it to stay and get minutes here and there for Arsenal, or do you want to go and really kick on and try and take the next step in your career and make yourself a first team player somewhere and really push forward? And I think for Reece, in the situation he is and the age that he is, it feels like this is the summer for him to make a move. I think it'd be a shame for Arsenal. He's shown this season he can be, he can make an impact. I think it's a shame that they're going to lose him on a free transfer. But from the player's point of view, I could totally understand why if he decides that the time is to move on, especially when you've got some good clubs such as Brighton chasing you, it makes sense, really. And if Reece Nelson goes, Arsenal certainly need some backup or competition for Bukayo Saka, and I think that'll be an area they look to improve on as well. We've seen it in the past. They tried to sign Rafinha last summer, didn't get very far, but they tried, and that says a lot about what they're thinking in terms of sort of strengthening the squad. They've done that on the left-hand side with Trossard. I know he can play on the right as well, but he's not so much of a right-sided player. He's definitely more suited to the left. So I think getting someone in who can cover for Saka so you don't have to use him all the time is really, really important. Will they go back in for Rafinha? It would be expensive again, but potentially he might be on the move this summer. He's had an okay season at Barcelona. They need to free up. They need to get some money in, especially if they want to re-sign Messi. Could Rafinha potentially be back on the market again? If so, you would expect Arsenal could go back in for him. We'll wait and see. Edu's had contacts with Deco. He did it last summer. Deco's admitted that. That'll be an interesting one to watch. And then you look at the right back situation. I think you definitely need potentially another younger option there to give you some cover. But I don't think I don't think it's a summer that you're going to look at Arsenal doing huge amount of things, or they need to do huge amount of things in terms of numbers. I think it's more about the quality. If you can add 4 top quality players to this squad and not lose too many, I think you're in a good position for the Champions League next season. Not to go and win it, but I think you can certainly push yourself into a decent situation to have a good run in it and really take this club onto the next level. And that's going to be the plan going into the transfer window this summer, and it's what they need to do. They've done such a lot of good work getting everyone out, moving players on they wanted to move on, freeing up space, freeing up the wage bill, slowly building things up. They've got to this point now, and now it's the time to take it to the next level. And I think this summer is the summer we're going to go and see that, and it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be an exciting summer for Arsenal fans. Going to be probably a very busy one, but an exciting one, and looking forward to seeing exactly what happens and what the squad's going to look like by the end of the summer transfer window. And I certainly think that midfield, as I said, is going to be the area where we're going to see probably the most dramatic change of all when you look at Arsenal's squad for next season. Mikel's press conference is tomorrow, so we'll get all the latest from him ahead of Brighton. Wasn't in the most talkative of moods at his press conference last Friday. Not in the best of moods, really. I don't know what was going on with him last Friday, but he didn't really want to answer any sort of questions. Didn't give anything away, really, which he does do sometimes. He's not the best when it comes to press conferences. Hopefully slightly more talkative and more open this time around as we head towards the Brighton game. I'm sure Saliba will be a big talking point again. Is he any closer? Has he made any sort of strides in his recovery? Good news that Mohamed Elneny is back on the grass. I don't think we're going to be seeing Elneny this season, so I don't think he's going to come on and strengthen the squad between now and the end of the season, but it's great to see him back on the grass. You could see the pictures that Arsenal posted like yesterday or the day before, how happy everyone was to see him back out there. He was hugging the teammates, hugging Arteta. Such a popular member of the squad, Mohamed Elneny. It was a shame that he suffered that injury when he did. But yeah, good to see him back out on the grass, and hopefully that means that by the time pre-season begins in the summer, he'll be 100% fit and ready to head over to the United States and take part in that tour and to get ready for the new season. So that's good, because Arsenal are going to need everyone they can. Ramsdale and Saka contract announcements. I'm sure we'll probably hear Mikel Arteta questioned about those two tomorrow at the press conference. I can't imagine he will give anything away because, as I said, he never does. But it'll be interesting to see exactly what sort of reaction he gives to those. I expect those will come at some point. It's going to be great when Saka does. The announcement does happen. No one has to worry about why it hasn't happened yet. It is going to happen. It's just a case of timing and getting everything together. It's a huge thing for the club. It's a huge thing for Saka. And yeah, it's going to be great to see that announced. Like I said, it's going to be such a massive thing for Arsenal. I think he's definitely gone off the boil a little bit, Saka. I think he's been used an awful lot. That's why it's key that Arsenal get some proper competition in for Saka in the summer transfer window. I think he has his form has dipped right at the end of the season. Still playing well, still causing teams all sorts of problems, but I do think there's definitely been a slight dip in Saka's form. But he's such an integral part of this squad and this team and what's happening at Arsenal at the moment, and to have him tied down when he could have walked into any single team in Europe, everyone would have wanted Bukayo Saka, and every single club would have been knocking on his agent's door and ringing his phone and saying, what's going on with Saka? Is there a potential for him to leave? What can we do? And the fact that he's kind of ignored all that and he is going to commit his future to the club, or he has committed his future to the club, is absolutely fantastic. And I just can't wait for that announcement to happen, to see what it is, first of all. And yeah, it's just going to be such a boost for Arsenal going into the summer. And hopefully Saliba follows on from that. And then, like I said, Ramsdale, Ben White, Martin Odegaard even. There's a lot of work for Edu to do when it comes to contracts. But, in recent times, having got Gabriel tied down, then having got Martinelli tied down, getting Saka tied down, these are all such huge parts of this new look Arsenal that we're seeing that's emerged over the last couple of years. And everyone would have wanted to sign him, so to keep him here, to get him committed to long-term contracts is such a big thing. And yeah, looking forward to seeing the Saka announcement when it does arrive, whenever that may be. All right, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do keep watching and stay tuned for tomorrow as we head to London Colney for Mikel Arteta's press conference ahead of that big game against Brighton on Sunday, as Arsenal look to keep up the pressure on Manchester City in the title race. Until next time, everyone, have a very good day. I'll speak to you soon.